Well, hello everybody. Good evening. It's good to see you. I hope you are well. So this is Amma. Amma is busy musing. Amma is discussing a lot of things. Amma Muses is a series which is only exclusively available from my YouTube channel. And today we want to talk about marriage material. Human materials, interesting concept. For those of you who are African, anywhere in Africa, this concept will not be new to you. But particularly those from the West African coast would know this concept very well. I mean, wife material, does that ring a bell? Girls hear this from the day they are born. You have to be a wife material. Your mom has to spend all her time and effort raising you, so you are a wife material. So you know your responsibilities as a wife. They train you to be a good hostess. They train you to be mute and to be serviceable. They train you to provide everything a man needs and wants and not demand anything back. You know, you are not allowed to have feelings. And that was the typical wife material concept. A woman who would tolerate absolutely anything from a man. A woman who will give everything a man needs. A woman who will let a man do whatever and not question it. There are people who would even tell you that when you've seen your man misrepresenting himself, no, don't notice it, pretend you haven't seen it, it's not your place to know it. Wife material. A woman who is vocal is not a wife material. A woman who does not tolerate nonsense is not a wife material. A wife material, wife material, wife material. But you know what? The good news is that there are people like me who are not wife material. But we've also managed to be wives for quite a while. Anyway, we will discuss that concept later. But today, I want to actually flip this particular one. So if we have wife material, then I am expecting that there will be husband material discussed. But nobody has discussed husband material in my presence ever. I certainly don't see mothers spending half that effort to raise their daughters and make them wife material. Doing the same thing with their boys and making them husband material. Dear mom, you spend all this time raising a wife material. Have you thought the kind of husband this wife material deserves? Have you even pondered for a second to think that you put all this energy to make a good woman out of her, that she might also demand, she might also deserve a good man? So, just so we are all clear, I want to discuss the husband material so that my sisters and I do know what the husband material, the good husband material also should look like. So that my sisters and I, just as the men look for good wife materials, become aware of the good husband material, and we also start looking for it and we start demanding it, because we are just humans, just like the men. And if good things are good for the men, good things are good for women as well. So I am referencing my sisters, and the question is, what is a husband material? A husband, the difference between a husband and any random man, is a man who commits to stay with you. I know there are polygamous marriages, but a husband is somebody who is committed to stay with you. That relationship is not temporary. That relationship is actually permanent. And for most people, in the legal sense, it is monogamous marriage that we are discussing. That's the perspective I am going to come from. You may apply some of these core principles to other perspectives, but I would only talk from the perspective I am familiar with. Somebody who lives with you long term has to have similar dreams. Or if your dreams differ, you have to find a way to get them to work in tandem. In the settings that we know typically, the man in a marriage is a leader. So a husband material must be a leader. No, the word was leader, not tyrant, because many people confuse these two words. To lead is actually to serve. To lead is to do things by example. To lead is to do it first and to call other people to a high standard once you've walked the path. You want your wife to be respectful. A good husband needs to be respectful himself and needs to command it from his behavior. Respect automatically. A good leader should have a vision. Your husband material has to be a visionary. He has to have a dream. He has to have aspirations. He has to have something he looks forward to. He has to be working towards something. A good husband, a husband material, should not be a lazy man. Regardless of how successful his wife becomes, he should never be her dependent. No, he should not be reliant on his friends and other family members to meet your needs. So when you meet this guy and you are thinking of husbanding out of him, ask yourself, has he got leadership qualities? Can he lead you? Can he command your respect? Are you able to submit to this man? Does he even understand what submission means? Make sure that your man is a leader, not a tyrant. That leadership to this guy is service, fair treatment, kindness, teamwork, leading by example and not tyranny. Be very clear, very careful of this one. Because there's a lot of tyrants in town who think they are leaders. They think leadership is tyranny, and it's not. You need to know the difference between the two, and you need to know how to select to avoid a tyrant, because that could change your life totally. A good leader, a good husband, is also a hard worker. He works hard for himself and works hard for the team. He leads by working hard first, and it motivates everybody in this family to work hard. The man works hard, so his wife will work hard equally, and the kids will see this ethic and will mimic it. A good leader, a good husband, should also have hard work etiquettes. Absolutely. They should be a team player. They need to understand when they need to be the foot at the front. But sometimes the leader also needs to be at the back of the pack so he can see everything happening in front of him. There are some people who think that the leader is the one who marches in front and doesn't know what happens behind him. Sometimes strategic leadership calls for strategy. And a person who is strategic understands when he needs to be at the forefront and when he needs to lurk at the background so he can see everything and can be in his advisory role very effective. A team player is what you want. A guy who understands that you are part of his team. No, you are not his servant. No, you are not somebody to abuse. No, you are not there to be his cheerleader, but you are a bona fide member of this team. That you also bring skills, abilities, qualifications, and expertise to this team. And that it is his job to nurture all these things and to get the best out of you, whilst he does the same thing for himself. A good husband is sexually responsible. Because, like it or not, what happens to his health happens to yours. If you select a guy who does not understand sexual exclusivity, one who does not understand the respect it takes to be able to be faithful, one who doesn't understand that at some age, certain behaviors and certain choices should have been outlived ages ago, then sister, woe unto you. It is appointed unto you to have mental issues. You will have many mental breakdowns if you get this wrong. You will feel so betrayed, and that will make you bitter, and the bitterness is what will cause your final demise, really. The bitterness is what makes people become ill. The bitterness is the reason why people become socially reclusive. The bitterness is why other people begin to say things about you because your behavior becomes erratic. But the bitterness is caused by betrayal. It really is. And make sure that the person you are selecting is not one who is likely to do this and take it as anything. Somebody who will do this and think it's okay. Somebody who will make choices and think you should accept it just because he says so. A good husband material should be somebody who is sexually responsible. Somebody who is sexually selective. Somebody who understands commitment. Commitment. A good husband should be committed to the marriage. Yes, after a child or two, you will look like me. The interesting thing is, after a child or two, he doesn't look like what he did before anyway. None of us do. That in spite of these changes, it's a commitment to be with somebody, to stay with somebody through the thick and through the thin. It is a commitment. No, it might not necessarily be easy. No, it might not even be what other people think is the best option. But sometimes once you've made a commitment, if you understand what commitment is, once you've said you would do something, your word has to be worth everything. Your word has to be your worth. And you need to find a guy who is able to see this. Otherwise, my dear, again, it's appointed unto you to have a lot of mental breakdowns because of the betrayal that this will bring to your table. A good husband is a guide, not a tyrant, like I said. No, he is not here to raise you. You've already been raised by your parents. Thank him very much. No, it is not his job to correct. He is not here in a corrective role. He is here in an advisory role. He is here to make recommendations. In fact, it is better that his recommendations are done from his actions. You should see the way he does things, and it should motivate you to become better. No, he is not somebody who is verbally abusive. You have to be very clear of that. There are many men who marry women and think that they are parents, that they are going to retrain these women and re-raise these women to change them to become something else. And if you're not careful, these people will augment your personality. It will turn you into something else, something you don't recognize, something you are not in control of. Be very mindful of the person you choose. Always remember this word: guide, facilitator, not enforcer. Advisor, not a tyrant. His role is advisory. His role is as a guide, to invite you to explore, to point you in the direction of, to ask pertinent questions that will lead you to come to your own conclusion. That is a husband material. A husband material is somebody who understands that he ought to be your friend outside the bedroom. You don't spend all your life inside the bedroom. Yes, you might pop a kid or two, but even that has its season. There are other things that you need to interact on, other levels you need to interact on. And this person has to be committed to getting to know you, the real you, and to invest in the development of you without hindrance, and to foster your happiness too, and to meet you halfway, to give and to receive. That is a husband material. A husband material is somebody who is not a wife beater. A husband material is not somebody who even shouts at a wife. As I said before, a husband is not an enforcer. He is not a tyrant. He is here to build a life with you, warts and all, because he brings his own warts. A husband is the man who knows he is imperfect. And he is here working with an imperfect woman. That he is not going to raise unnecessary standards for the woman to kowtow to that he would not be able to meet himself. He understands that we all have abilities, but the abilities do have limitations. That he will help you to extend your boundaries, and his boundaries would also be pushed in return. And you would negotiate until you get to a point where you are mutually satisfied, mutually happy. Mutualism is the key word for a good husband material. He looks out for his needs, but he looks out for your needs. When it conflicts, he understands that you don't have to back down and compromise all the time. That he will compromise some of the time and you will compromise some of the time. To me, a husband material is a man who is not expecting a home to be a showroom or a hotel. A husband material is a realist, somebody who has a realistic view on life. He is aware of the difficulties in the home. He is aware of everything that happens in that home. He respects the contribution you make. He values what you bring to the table. He nurtures what you bring to the table, and on the occasions when you cannot be the very best, he admits and accepts that we all do fail sometimes. That is a husband material. You see, wife material is supposed to be a patient woman. But a husband material should also be a patient man. A husband material should understand that in this partnership, it is not one person who is patient for both. That both parties will have to learn patience together. To me, a good husband material is not necessarily a provider, but somebody who facilitates and ensures that the family is provided for. Be the provision done by him or done by you, he facilitates that. A husband material is a man who does not sacrifice your development for his sake. He is a man who should be secure. An insecure man cannot be a good husband material because he will stifle your progress. He will be an enemy to your progress. And a good husband material clearly should not be that. A good husband material should lead you to become better and to become better himself each day so that you grow together and you become together. You become anything you set out to do together. The achievement is done jointly. A husband material. Very interesting concept. A husband material is one most of us have never heard before. But women have been raising sons for a long, long time. But women have not known that these sons ought to be husband materials. The 21st century husband material, needs to be an equal partner in all stakes in your life. He needs to be willing to engage you on the things that he thinks are traditionally your role. And he should be willing to engage you on the things that he would assume would traditionally be his role. You might actually have meaningful contribution to make to each other's roles. Because in the 21st century, nothing is hard and fast. There are no roles. We have family roles, and we can distribute and apportion them according to our needs and according to what we are capable of. A husband material is somebody who brings you comfort and happiness and receives the same. Somebody who realizes that you are also a human being in here. Somebody who admits that they get it right and they get it wrong, just as you get it right and get it wrong. And just as they expect that you will cut them some slack, a husband material should cut you some slack as well. A husband should be a protector. He should protect you from all things, including his family, including his friends. He should allow you to be. And if somebody else forgets themselves and oversteps the boundary of their relationship with you, a husband material will call that person to order. Because this husband material is a leader in a home. He will call other people to order so that people know the standard he sets for your treatment. A husband material does not necessarily have to be a provider. No, he is definitely, most certainly not expected to pay for everything you do. Rating a man with his financial abilities, his ability to pay and sponsor, is one of the reasons why a lot of us have ended up in tyranny. People who are providers, people who come to relationships with a buck or two, come in paying a buck or two expecting service. You have to be very clear of the kind of man you are going for. One who is willing to pay without question is also willing to be served without question. Do you understand this? One who pays for everything, controls everything. It is his world. You are just in there to help and to cater to his need. You are almost a paid member of staff in that marriage, in that relationship. Do you know? If you want to be an equal partner in a relationship with a husband material, you also need to bring something to the table to make a contribution to what the husband brings and provides. I do beg your pardon. do it that way. Sorry. Had to get the lighting sorted. I want to discuss this husband material so you can train your daughters. So I can train my daughter. And if you're a young woman, before you select a man, I want you to be aware of this concept. I want you to use this as a yardstick in evaluating the men who come your way. You are not looking for an ATM machine. You are looking for somebody who will respect your individuality. Somebody who will respect the development of your mind. Somebody who would respect that it's not every